After Sanan collapsed, the captains rushed into the room. They must have heard the commotion from the common room. Everything glowed white after, and I realized that I was in a daze. None of their words stuck in my ear, and I wobbled back to my room. Oh, hello.
Seriously. You can really be a pain, you know that.
Okita had taken me back to my room, and I heard him as soon as he opened the door for me.
Time for you to explain what went on last night. Why were you in there with Sannan?
Okita was never particularly pleasant to me, but his tone was even harsher than usual. I felt like there was someone in the common room. I was curious, so I had a look. I found Sannan in there.
I see.
Okita's lackadaisical response seemed disarming, and he just scanned me. Although my mind had cleared somewhat, it was still difficult to keep my thoughts organized. One, however, rose quickly to the surface. Is it true that my father had something to do with that stuff that Sannan drank?
Did Sannan tell you that?
Yes. He said it makes you stronger, but it drives you mad. He fixed his eyes warily on the ceiling above us, sighing before eventually answering my question.
You are the daughter of the man who made that stuff, and you've seen what happens to the men who go crazy. I suppose you do have a right to know. It'd be easier to just kill you, but... ah well.
His manner of speaking was far removed than his usual joking self when he mentioned killing, but this time it felt like he meant it. He could kill me at any time.
So, you got any questions? I suppose I can answer one.
I desperately searched for the words. Why did the Shinsengumi get involved in something like this?
Our job is to crack down on outlaw Ronin, but... you know that doing so isn't some walk in the park, right?
Yeah. Among the Ronin, there are plenty that are actually skilled swordsmen. When I was on rounds, I saw many such men fighting and dueling amongst themselves.
When we started out, we were really short on men. Our reputation was shit, and we couldn't pay that well either. Anyway, we didn't have many people asking to join, and those that did were pretty disappointing. That was when some guy from the shogunate showed up and offered to make us part of this experiment.
An experiment? That must have been what Sannan was referring to. So you knew what the side effects were, and you still made them take it?
We didn't make them take it. It was their choice. You see, the Shinsengumi has this thing called the Rules of Conduct. Just so you don't get all confused, it's a set of rules we employ to keep everyone in line. Usually, if you break our rules, we make you cut yourself open.
Cut yourself open?
Why are you so surprised? The only way a warrior can own up to something is by cutting themselves open.
Traditionally, when samurai disgraced themselves, they drove their swords into their bellies. I had thought such traditions were obsolete, and that now the worst they do is pretend to cut themselves open with a fan.
You get it right. If they're gonna die anyways, don't you think it makes more sense for them to save some face and take it into their own hands? For these guys, we gave them a choice. Kill yourself or drink the Shogun's concoction. You get it. Don't you feel bad for them?
I couldn't think of anything to say. What sort of a choice was that? Death by your own hand, or madness and death by someone else's? The men that I'd encountered that winter night, had their last thoughts as men been hope they might survive the madness? It sounded horrible.
Something that makes you strong and hard to kill should be really great, right? In actuality, though, they ended up being a piece of cake. We could easily kill them all.
In a moment, I was taken back to that fateful night when Okita dispatched the warriors with white hair without any effort.
I wonder what's going to happen to Sannan.
I was worried too. Was Sannan okay? Would he change? My stomach was twisting itself into knots. Oh, he'll change, alright. We'll find out just how much. Alright, so now we're gonna lie to Ito. As soon as he leaves, I will stop, because Sanan's gonna pop in for a quick visit. A very quick visit.
Seems like he let us off easy. What do you mean?
Ito has his wits about him. We shouldn't have let him see all of us together. The only man missing was Sannan. It won't take Ito long to realize something's happened to him.
Oh.
Ito had likely guessed at what took place, but decided not to press the issue. And just missed the man in question. I had looked up just in time to see Sannan shuffle through the door. Sannan!
Hey, come on, guys. Don't stare at me like I'm some kind of monster. Sanan, you sure you should be up and about? I'm only a little drained, sore. A side effect of my new condition, I suppose. Those who've taken the draught often find activity during daylight hours to be especially taxing.
Sannan looked a little pale, but it didn't look too difficult for him to stand and speak. But if it's hard for him to move during the day...
I am no longer a human being.
Those words sunk our hearts heavily. Even the captains fell silent to his solemn admission.
Oh, Sannan. Who cares what you are? You're alive! That's good enough for me.
Kondo stood and grabbed Sanan's shoulders tightly, his expression bright and enduring. Tears nearly welled in his beaming eyes.
So how's your arm? Has it healed? I haven't fully recovered yet, so I would withhold any final judgment, but...
He lifted his left arm, the arm that before had hung limp at his side, and flexed his hand. It didn't look any different than before his injury.
It seems to have been healed. At the very least, it is no longer a hindrance.
Thank goodness. In spite of the chaos from last night, his wish to use his arm once more came true. However...
You can't go out in the sun though, right? Will you still be able to fight with us?
His voice was calm, almost careless.
I have an idea. Tell everyone I died.
What?
From now on, I will serve in the court to remind them and us that success is possible.
Sannan, have you lost your mind? Do you know what you're saying?
Of course I do. Do you, Nagakura? The Shogun had ordered us to keep this thing a secret. If I, die, the Shogun's secret remains so. Besides, consider the possibilities of the side effects being managed or even removed. What reason do we have not to use it?
They seemed to be against Sanan's idea, though no one said anything. Who would want to consign a friend to a life of secrecy, lived in shadows? But...
We were given this task by the Shogun himself. I suppose this is our only choice.
Well, this is what you asked for, Sanan. And besides, you're not the type to listen either. You know me well, don't you? You couldn't have been more accurate.
Huh. Hijikata scoffed at Sanan's suggestion, and bitterness frothed from his words.
This means moving to a new location isn't something we can put off any longer. If we're going to hide Sannan from Ito and his men, we need more space. This place won't cut it. I agree. If we intended to begin research again, then a move is even more urgent. Alright, everyone. Even though none of you got much sleep, we need to attend to business. Yukimura, you go back to your room. I know you didn't sleep much.
Okay. Understood. Please excuse me. I bowed to everyone and left the common room. I'm happy that Sannan was safe, but a whole flurry of new concerns arose. Learning of my father's horrible work? What will become of me? Will I be safe? Such thoughts buzzed heavily in my head as I walked back to my room. Alright. So the whole transformation thing is now donezo. And now it's a new month. Now we get to watch his slow descent into madness. Hooray! And we got a new home. Our emperor had passed, and our year moved from the 2nd of Ganji to the 1st of Keo. It was 3 months since we'd moved the headquarters to Nishihangwanji. There's a lot more room, but... more room meant, well, farther to walk. I'd walked through it almost every day for weeks, and I was finally beginning to learn my way around. As I turned a corner near the back of the compound, I caught sight of someone sitting in the shadows. There you are, Sanan. Your food's ready.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
The snow disappeared, the cherry blossoms bloomed and fled, and now the swallows and the heat came. Sanan and I exchanged a pair of smiles, and I held out my hands to let the breeze brush across them. It's really gotten warm lately.
Yes, it has. Unfortunately, the increased sunshine has been more unpleasant for me than the heat.
Really? I didn't think the sun was particularly strong that day, but to Sanan, who hid in the shadows and out of sight during the day, it must have been unbearable. Flashback. The night he... changed, Sanan's hair turned white, and in his eyes was a thirst for blood. But looking at his peaceful smile now made it hard to imagine such a night was real. If someone told me it was all a bad dream, I would have believed it. It wasn't a dream, though, and now Sanan spends his days hiding from the sunlight and from others. For just a moment, the sun lit on Sanan's hair. Ah! I don't know if it was a trick of the light, or simply my mind being foolish, but in that moment his hair was a brilliant white.
Is something the matter? You look as though you've seen a ghost, which I hardly feel is polite.
Oh, no, nothing at all. He looked perfectly normal now, of course. Surely I thought I must have simply imagined it. Even if I had, there was no denying that he was the same man who went mad with bloodlust. The fear of the night cast a shadow over my heart. Not uneasy at all. It was unnerving. Alright, I'm with Heisuke and Soji to meet my sister brother. So we can skip through this. My ever-absent sister brother. And then... the new Shogun thing should be happening relatively soon. I know we have no choice but to go. But I imagine we can make Yamazaki's job a little easier this time around and actually go back to the headquarters with him. So we will do that. Of course, we're very rarely gonna see Sanan most of the time. Unless he just comes and is like, I demand your blood for experiments. That's basically the only time we see him. He makes himself all scarce during the day. Usually. Okay. And as much as it pains me to skip through both Miki and the Demon Trio, we don't really have any reason to go through all of this again. I wonder who Sanan's rival will be. Kazuma, probably? But it could be one of the other two. I don't see Amagiri as being the one to be Sanan's rival, but we'll find out. Alright, Yamazaki, where are you? There you are. Okay. We'll go back to headquarters. I will make your job easier this time around. Oops. And say but. And... probably Heisuke? I think I could look at this choice. Yes. Heisuke. Since Sanan and Heisuke have some affinity for each other. Hey, old boo! What was the context for this? They knew my name, okay. Well, I don't want to get points with you, so I'll say, yeah, it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is.
But it's alright now, so don't worry.
Thanks.
But, wait. I thought you didn't feel well, Heisuke. Okay, so we avoided points with you, which is good. We didn't have the option to, spend time with Sanan there. Alright, where are we? Oh, the doctor's come to visit, okay. Well, we can, have the whole argument between Sanan and him, at least. But we'll ask Yamazaki to go and fetch him for us first. I'm sad we don't get to play through that really anymore. Hello, Yamazaki. Please take care of it for me. Okay, I'll wait till we move on. There we go. We'll start from here.
Dr. Matsumoto?
Ah, Doctor. Hello, Yukimura.
Oh, hi, Kondo.
I see you found her already.
Yes, thanks to you.
What? I was utterly lost. Dr. Matsumoto laid a gentle hand on my shoulder.
Chizuru, I came here to see you. Kondo told me that Kodo's daughter was staying with the Shinsengumi.
Oh, I see.
I knew Kodo and Matsumoto were acquaintances, so I thought perhaps Matsumoto might be able to give us a clue as to his friend's whereabouts. I looked him up as soon as he returned to Kyoto.
The Shinsengumi had their own reasons for wanting my father found, but Dr. Matsumoto's appearance was still cause for joy.
Thank you, both of you.
They smiled. Dr. Matsumoto then explained he had just barely missed me when he left for Edo as I came to Kyoto. He'd received all my letters, but once he finally returned, he had no idea where I was and consequently couldn't find me.
I'm sorry that I missed you. You must have had a rough time of it. Is there anything you need?
No, I'm doing all right. So, Dr. Matsumoto, about my father.
His face took on a grim cast, and before he even spoke, I knew what his response would be.
Unfortunately, I know no more about where Kodo might be than you do.
I see.
The defeated tone of my voice surprised me. I suppose on some level I believed Dr. Matsumoto had some miraculous revelation about my father. Foolish of me, of course, but that didn't make the truth any less devastating. Kondo simply nodded.
I hear you've become involved with the treatment. You know what I mean, don't you? Kodo's experiments.
Yes, I knew what he meant. The experiments my father conducted with some strange concoction that could make people go mad.
Please tell me about it. I want to know everything my father was doing.
He nodded.
Kodo was working with the Shinsengumi under orders from the Shogun to create what were called Furies. Furies are humans with nigh demonic strength and speed, and phenomenal healing abilities.
Furies. This term seems so familiar, then I realized I'd overheard some of the men talking about it. My favorite memory.
Don't jinx him, Soji. It's gonna look bad if officers start joining the Furies.
Oh, so Furies come from something you drink where any injuries could be cured.
The Furies that Heisuke spoke about are meant to be pitied.
The substance that transforms normal men into these Furies is called the Water of Life. In China, they call it Sannan. In short, it grants immortality.
Furies. Water of life. It sounded more like something from a fairy tale rather than real life. But there was something in Dr. Matsumoto's tone of voice that said he was telling the truth. I've already heard about how it makes you strong and hard to kill. But doesn't it cause so much pain that it makes most people go crazy? And even if you survive that, then even the smell of blood can make you go crazy again? Dr. Matsumoto nodded slowly, then pinched the bridge of his nose with thumb and forefinger. He looked very tired.
So you know about that too?
Yes. They were human, but not human. Perhaps they were almost entirely different now? I couldn't see how this water of life could ever be used for good. Even if it had healed Sanan's arm, he'd suffered greatly in the process. Why? It sounded more like a moan than a question. My father would never want to ruin the life of another, but because of what he'd done, people suffered, and some even died. Why was my father doing this? But it wasn't just my father. I was sure no one involved expected such a terrible outcome.
Perhaps that is why Kodo left. His conscience would no longer allow him to continue.
But the water of life was an opportunity given to us by the Shogun to help strengthen the Shinsengumi.
The doctor only shook his head.
It was an experiment and it has failed. You should put it behind you. I am sure the Shogunate has abandoned it as well.
Kondo frowned, perhaps unhappy that Dr. Matsumoto would question the Shogunate's original decision.
You've seen what happened to the men it was tested on, Kondo. It cannot be allowed to continue. This experiment is inhumane, and you know it.
Kondo gave a non-committal grunt and fell silent. I was sure Kondo knew just how dangerous it was to use the water of life, but the Shogunate had come to him with a request. Perhaps he couldn't refuse, even if he wanted to. Silence fell like a thick blanket.
I understand that you are the Shogunate's designated doctor, but you are not one of us. An outsider has no right to object.
Sanan? His face was pale as moonlight, as if he was a walking corpse. Is it okay for you to be up right now?
Shouldn't you be resting, Sanan? You look pale.
Don't worry about me.
He bowed quickly, his mouth a compressed line, and turned to regard the doctor with a cool gaze.
We use this treatment effectively and at our own discretion.
It's dangerous and far too strong.
We have continued Kodo's research. I am, as you can see, living proof, so to speak.
As Sanan did indeed prove, it was possible to drink the water of life and retain your sanity. It just wasn't easy.
Perhaps you're right. But that could also mean that you're forcing your body in ways the eyes can't see.
I am perfectly healthy. I respectfully disagree. With continued research and modification, we will have many more successes and fewer casualties.
Do you plan on sacrificing more of your men in order to have more successes? Using your men to experiment with things that put them in danger comes off as a disregard for life. It's a disgrace.
The men who gave their lives are the foundation of our work. They did not die in vain.
But...
Alright, that's enough. From both of you. Why don't we discuss this some other time?
It was my private opinion that they were unlikely to agree, no matter what time they discussed the subject, but I felt it was polite to keep quiet.
Very well.
There seemed to be very little common ground between them, but both arguments had merit. Kondo had likely seen this as well, and he chose to end things before it got unpleasant.
If you insist, Kondo.
Sanan's face betrayed nothing of what he might be thinking, even when the corner of his mouth quirked up into the beginning of a smile. He bowed quietly and left as swiftly as he arrived.
So, how did the exams go?
Ah, yes, about that. This sure is a headache.
What? Why is that?
What do you mean, why? The amount of injured and sick warriors is nearly a third of your force.
What?
Impossible!
It is not only possible, Kondo, it is the truth. What have you been doing to these poor men? Cuts, lacerations, bowel pain. This entire place is lousy with, well, lice for one.
Seriously? I'm so embarrassed to hear this. I never would have imagined.
First, you need to set aside a room dedicated to medical care. Sick men can be sent there. Second, you need to clean this place up. Otherwise, I won't be able to help you.
Understood. I'll get to it this instant.
Alright, now, while everyone's busy cleaning, Sanan gets to hide away. And then Soji's gonna get his diagnosis fairly soon. I imagine I don't follow Soji. I'll just look at my notes while this is fast forwarding. Yeah, I don't. Okay, so they're going. It's not any of my business, so I'm gonna run into my demon boy. He's come with a message for me while he's scouting for info. And then we gotta choose between all the stuff. And I think I need to do... what was it again? Turning humans into demons. That seems apropos. Actually, we haven't picked this option yet before. Okay. I just couldn't shake from my mind the image of the Shinsengumi turning humans into demons, even after Cosma left. Maybe he was referring to the water of life in the Furies. I wonder if... Even as the day turned to night, Cosma's words swirled in my mind, and I couldn't get over them. That's interesting, so none of the guys talked to me after I picked an option there. I just left to stew, I guess. I returned to my room, lost in thought as I recalled the events of the afternoon. Oh. Okay. This is a new one.
Yukimura, I apologize for bothering you at this hour. Are you still awake?
Sanan? Yes, I'm still awake. I opened the sliding door to see Sanan standing there with a contemplative expression.
My apologies. I'm sure my presence at this hour is a surprise, visiting a lady's room this late at night.
Oh, no, I didn't think anything of it. So is there something I can help you with?
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about the demons who visited you this afternoon. I was briefed on the situation by Hichikata. Supposedly, our uninvited guest accused us of turning men into demons. Is that true?
Yes, and I've been thinking about it all day. Having Sanan come to my room to discuss the afternoon's events was a little intimidating, but I let him in my room, and I recounted the story. I'm sure everything will be fine.
Turning humans into demons, huh? It sounds very similar to the effects of the water of life in the Furies.
You think so too, Sanan?
Yes, Kyoto has defected to the other side. If he is working with foreigners, then maybe the word of the Furies has made its way to them. So was he coming here to warn us after learning about the Furies? Or did they come to stop us, knowing that the experiment is progressing beyond their control? Well, thank you for letting me know about this.
No problem at all. I'm just happy to help. We didn't seem to figure out why he came, but we agreed to interpret it as a warning. So, could Father have been involved in all this? The thought of it made my heart tighten.
On a side note, Yukimura, wouldn't you want to learn more about the water of life in the Furies?
Learn more? Are you offering to teach me? And what is involved with this? All it will require is a drop of your blood. Takes out katana. Yes. I guess I better, because we're gonna be spending more time together. Well, if that's the case, then could you tell me how my father became involved with these things?
Sure. It all started back when we were founded in Kyoto, when we still referred to ourselves as Roshigumi. We had no funds, no backing, and almost nothing to eat. We were at a loss for what to do when the then Chief Shirizawa brought us an opportunity.
Chief Serizawa? So Kondo wasn't the chief?
When the Roshigumi was first established, we had 3 chiefs. The head chief was Kamo Serizawa. He had a penchant for violence, even with his own warriors, and most, if not all, negative rumors of the Shinsengumi came from his outbursts. However, he was an incredible swordsman, and he had many friends in high places. And thanks to his connections, the Roshigumi were able to slip by, if only just. In an effort to prevent our organization from going under, the shogunate negotiated with the chief to perform experiments with the water of life.
But Kondo had told me they did it to make up for the lack of reinforcements from the shogunate.
Yes, only if everything went as planned. If the serum worked, it would have increased our numbers. And so, Chief Serizawa began experimenting with the water of life and Furies on the Shinsengumi. And the shogunate had commissioned your father, Kodo Yukimura, to assist them. That part you're aware of, correct?
Yes.
The experiment began under the orders of Chief Serizawa. Initial subjects for the experiment were those whose days were numbered from fatal injuries, or those sentenced to death who could consent to the experiment in place of their execution. Just to be clear, everyone who partook in the experiment did so on their own accord. And under the leadership of Chief Serizawa, we performed many experiments, but most of the subjects became bloodthirsty. Any idea what we did with the failed subjects?
What did you do?
We bloodied our hands with their lives.
Well, what did you expect, girl? Come on.
In the end, unfortunately, Chief Serizawa had also succumbed to the fate of the Furies.
Oh.
In order to become the Shinsengumi as we know it today, we've had to sacrifice the lives of countless comrades, an era of needless bloodshed. Kodo, despite being responsible for shaping the Shinsengumi as we know it, left one day without giving any explanation. Don't you think that was irresponsible of him? Now you understand why we're looking for him. So, do you regret hearing the truth?
No. I'm the one who asked. I'm proud of you for not being ashamed. Oh, and a compliment. Wow.
You're a strong one.
I don't know why you'd think I'm strong.
You may not, but it could be because you've yet to realize it for yourself.
Was such a realization truly possible? I was about to cry, and my heart broke as if its shards scattered across an unreachable ether. Or ether, I guess. Wow, now we're spouting poetry. I had no way of convincing myself in this moment, or the next, that I was strong.
Well, it's getting late. It's time for humans to sleep.
Wow, you've really adjusted to your monster status very quickly. Sannan stood without making a sound, bowed, and disappeared like a shadow. I thought that having answers would help, but learning about the Shinsengumi's morbid past and knowing how much pain they've endured? Most of all, knowing the extent to which my father was involved in all of this was interesting.